Hey y'all, so this is going to be a pretty simple video on just how to cold protect some tropicals. Depending on where you're at, you might want to go to greater lengths. If you've seen my other videos, you know that I live in Northeast Florida in St. Augustine, which is zone 9B, treading on 9B, and a lot of the palms, quite a lot that I have, are all 10A, 10B, 11A, 11B. Natives, so they're technically pushing zone, but here's a good way to be able to protect any kind of tropical that you might have, any kind of palm that you have. I know people that are trying to grow them further up north in like Virginia and New York and stuff like that I see, and so this is a good way just to do it. So the way that I'm doing all mine is fully enclosing all of my palms. Now if you've seen my last year's video on like protecting palms, it was actually really bad. It was misdirected and misguided. I've learned a lot since last year. I've talked to a lot of my friends who are botanists and what best ways to take care of your palms. So this is really the way that it kind of should be done. One of the things that I like to do is at this point fully enclose the full plant itself. So all the way from the canopy all the way down to the base and throughout the roots. What I've done here, because I lost pretty much most of my palms last year, is I went and I bought from a nursery 300 feet of 4-ounce frost cloth. This is professional grade commercial frost cloth that allows the sun to penetrate in during the day and allows it still to breathe and still thrive on the inside and grow, but you can keep them wrapped up for really months on end is what I'm going to do. So right now it's December. Last year we had a pretty rough winter. We had a few days that hit around 30, and I think one night it was 29, which is enough to kill some tropicals when they're actual tropicals. Like this one is this is actually a 25-gallon coconut right here, and so obviously coconuts start dying even under 40 degrees, and they just start slipping away. So what you want to do is you want to be able to fully enclose the palm all the way from the base to the canopy. All of the leaves, you want to protect them from getting any kind of frost. You want to protect them from getting any kind of cold that will cause them to shut down. So palms that are actual tropicals, like your coconuts, will actually start shutting down and go into shock mode once they hit about 40 degrees, 45 degrees. They'll start just shutting down completely. And what you really need for it is like today. So last night it hit 46, so it was pretty cold here. But today it shot back up to around 68 or so, and that rebound is crucial to a palm's life, specifically if it's not covered. But if it is covered, it'll be okay. At least you're keeping it warm on the inside throughout the day and the night. So what I did specifically for this one is not only I put this frost cloth on it, but I've actually got a 500 watt halogen bulb down there that will keep it extra warm on nights that might actually have a freeze, should we drop to a freeze anytime this year. That will just keep it warm by another, I'd say about 7 degrees warmer. Those halogens actually burn at like 540 something degrees. That's how they produce the light and the heat. Now it's all within there, but it still emits a lot of heat, so it can make a good bit of difference. One of the things that you want to do for taller palms, this is Rostonia Reggio, so the royal palm. This is obviously not a mature version yet, still juvenile. There's no trunk, but it's still about 20 feet high. So I built this enclosure with PVC pipes, and then I wrapped my frost cloth around it. The good thing about this, and I would actually do a full structure for every palm if I was able to, is you don't want necessarily the frost cloth to be touching the leaves if you can avoid that, because the cloth will at some point transfer some of the cold onto the inside. And so let's say you get a really cold night, that cold that's surrounding it, yes, the cloth will protect the inside, but it can also still transfer for you in some instances. If you're using bed sheets, if you're using plastic, which is terrible, don't ever use plastic. I know people do it, but it doesn't hold that much heat, and actually what it does is it suffocates the palm on the inside. Again, commercial grade, real horticultural frost cloth is the best way to go. This was expensive, but it wasn't that expensive. I think I paid $1.15 per foot, and of course I got 300 feet, so I had to pay for this one. But if it keeps my palms alive, it's worth it. This will do a better job at keeping the frost out and the the moisture out and keeping the heat on the inside, but still allowing it to breathe through. So though it's not best that it's touching the leaves, it's better that it's touching the leaves because it's actual cloth. This one I need to finish wrapping with some real frost cloth because I've got a bunch left, but this is a juvenile coconut that I had wrapped last night at least. And even from low 40s, you can see it's already getting burned a little bit, and that's because this frost cloth isn't the real deal like that stuff is. Let's see, so I've got a few more. These are Adeninia Mariellis as well as those are Adeninia Mariellis. The Adeninia will really start going downhill at about 33, 32 degrees and absolute death at 26. No matter what. Now with it being covered, it should be fine, but I'm saying if these things were uncovered. And another thing that I have done actually, which reminds me, because I don't have the wattage, I suppose, without tripping all my breakers at the house, to use, 30 halogen bulbs, what I've done is I've used halogen lights on the ones that are very sensitive. So the coconut, obviously, coconuts start dying under 40. I should use one for my Adeninias because again 32 is actually not cold hardy at all, but I don't have enough halogens, so I'm using Christmas lights, C9 incandescent Christmas lights that don't put off that much heat, but they do put off a little bit to raise it maybe 2, maybe 3 degrees on the inside, as well as being wrapped up. It should be fine. So with the interior of all these palms that are wrapped, they really shouldn't go below 40 degrees at any point throughout the winter, no matter how cold it would get. So I also felt I should add, this is the frost cloth. This is a 15-foot long roll by 300 feet spooled up. So again, it's 4 ounce. They sell it in 2 ounce, 4 ounce, and 6 ounce. I didn't buy the 6 just because I'm still subtropical. At least I really shouldn't have to worry about that much. And even if I do, I can wrap it around a tree twice, and then 4 goes to 8, and do it again, and it goes to 12, so on and so forth. One of the things I won't advise, last year I used bed sheets. Don't use bed sheets. Don't use plastic. That stuff really, bed sheets don't actually keep out the cold or the frost. It penetrates right through, so it really doesn't do anything. Plastic doesn't allow the palm to breathe, so you're actually going to suffocate it in there, and it doesn't keep out that much cold either. This is some cheaper frost cloth that I actually bought at Walmart. This stuff I got at my actual nursery. They ordered it for me. This stuff was good, but as you saw the coconut, it's still got a little bit burned. Also, it doesn't let sun to penetrate through during the day, so this stuff was just a temporary that I have for a little while. Get the real deal. I will say, if you are using any kind of heat source, incandescent lights, the Christmas lights, the C9s, they seem great because they're incandescent, so they do put off some heat, but really they almost do nothing. If you're just gonna wrap Christmas lights and say, oh, it's covered because it's got Christmas lights, I don't need to actually cover it with a cloth or something, I'm sorry, you're definitely wrong there. You still need to cover it with a cloth on days that are going to be colder. The Christmas lights put out so little. The only reason I'm using them is because I do still have them covered, so the little bit that they do produce is going to be captured and going to be trapped within that wrapping. Now, if you really do want to produce heat, I highly suggest from Walmart for $8, $8.50, something like that, you can get one of those 500 watt halogen bulbs that produce a crap ton of heat. They use a lot of wattage though. They use, I think, somewhere around 5 watts each, or 5 amps each, which, 2 of them is 10 amps. That's quite a bit. So the point is, halogens are the way to go. Real wrapping them with real cloth is the way to go. Alright, so this is another one that I had actually in an enclosure just because it's so big and so difficult to wrap otherwise. This is Hyophorbe lanicalis. I think this is another 20 gallon. Now Hyophorbe will start dying at around 35 and absolute death at about 30. So I did put a halogen bulb in there, and you can see that the one thing about Hyophorbe is those leaves are designed to actually be hurricane resistant. Hyophorbe is native to South Africa, growing on or not South Africa, South America, growing on the hills and the rocks there right around the sea, so they get a lot of tropical weather and a lot of hurricanes and whatnot, and God just designed them to be able to live through that. So their fronds, their petioles, are extremely bendable, which means that under there you can bend them backwards and they'll still be able to be tied up and they'll be okay. This is with Yetia bufurcata, so it's the foxtail palm. I've got 2 of those wrapped. Now foxtails will technically go down to about 26 degrees and about absolute death at like 23. I don't ever plan on getting to that point here, obviously. However, they don't do well once you go under freezing, so 32, they're going to start really taking some damage. So what I did was I wrapped some C9 incandescents with my foxtail, again my adeninia, another adeninia, pretty much everything that is zone 10A, which I have quite a few of, I went ahead and wrapped, just because these cool temperatures, anytime you're going under 40, 45, it's really going to start damaging them, and again, I don't want to lose them all this year. So this is just a simple review of how you can cover and how you can cold protect palms. Again, even if you're pushing zones, so let's say you're in zone 6A, and then you would be pushing, 8A palms maybe, or 7 palms. So like for me, a Robellini, a Phoenix Robellini, or any kind of Phoenix, totally healthy, totally native, all the way up to zone 8A. Well, I live in 9B, so I'm not worried about protecting that whatsoever. But let's say you live in like 6A, well then you would need to protect your Robellini just like I need to protect my Christmas or whatever. So the best way to do it is to wrap it from bottom to top, fully enclosing all the leaflets, fully enclosing the trunk, and the main thing, of course, enclosing the crown shaft or the heart, be it if it's a crown shafted palm or it's not a crown shafted palm. Either way, that's where all the growth is, and that's where the palm is actually going to live. What I like to do around the base is kind of flare out my frost cloth. That way the ground itself will produce typically around 2, maybe 3 degrees of heat. Very little, and it doesn't rise very far, but I'd say about 6 inches up, it'll produce a couple degrees of heat. So if you can collect some of that and then route it up into there, that's going to be your best bet. I know a lot of times that, and like my last video talked about not protecting the fronds and whatnot. That's actually completely wrong. Make sure you protect the fronds. What happens is they start going in the shock, and the rest of the palm goes in the shock, and then you're acceptable to having weevil infestations. Ambrosia beetles is what I had last year. They kill everything. They target palms that are unhealthy and palms that are stressed out and palms that are dying, and then once you get one infected, they'll spread to another and to another, and so on and so forth. So if you have any kind of questions on how to protect tropicals or palms, for sure, feel free to let me know. Hope you enjoyed the video, enjoy the tropics, and I'll talk to you guys later.